Sometimes life feels like a theater stage. The real show, which has been prepared for years behind the scenes, suddenly begins when all the lights are turned on you. Today the curtain opens. The truths that have remained in the shadows for years and the hands that have been working silently in the background are now on stage. The path you have walked has left a mark that has changed not only your destiny, but the destiny of others as well. And now it is time to confront the legend, whose name is whispered in whispers. No one will be able to tell your story by hearsay anymore, because the truth will reveal itself. For years they have waited, they have been patient, some have even found it hard to believe. But the army of the heavens is standing by, a ring of protection has been set up. Because you are no ordinary person, you have been chosen. Now, in front of everyone, you will be a symbol of your own strength and courage. Today, the truth of who you are will shine too brightly to hide. Don't just be a spectator, be part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications and join us. Because the real show starts now. Imagine a quiet spring deep underground, flowing out of sight beneath the busiest city streets. Its waters never break the surface in fanfare, but over years, they push through bedrock, nourishing the roots of trees and lifting gardens to blossom in places where no one saw the work being done. That hidden spring does not seek to be noticed, yet without it, nothing above would flourish. This is the nature of true spiritual influence, often silent, often unseen, yet powerful enough to change the very landscape of life. There are seasons when a single word whispered in faith, a prayer spoken in solitude, or a gesture of kindness offered without an audience ripples outward like living water, eventually bringing refreshment to parched souls who may never know the name of their benefactor. Such is the mystery of the chosen one's walk. Your impact is rarely measured by the noise you make, but by the quiet revolutions you set in motion beneath the surface of the world. Somewhere in the hum and buzz of daily existence, a moment arrives that feels like the sudden scent of rain before a storm, a recognition, gentle but undeniable, that the path you've walked in shadows was always guiding the tides above. Maybe it comes as a word of gratitude from someone you never thought was watching. Maybe it arrives as a door opening in a season when you had given up knocking. Or maybe it shows itself in the way a community gathers to celebrate a harvest whose seed you planted long ago, quietly, and without ceremony. In these moments, it becomes clear that the most lasting victories are not the ones paraded in the streets, but the ones woven into the roots, where your steadfastness, your integrity, and your faith have redirected rivers that would have otherwise flooded the land with despair. Let's talk about the world's applause. The world celebrates the noise, the fireworks, the trumpets, the instant success stories. But heaven? Heaven pays attention to the ones who do the work when no one is clapping, who mend nets at night so that others can find abundance at dawn. Spiritual greatness is rarely announced on billboards or written in bright lights. It's built in late-night vigils, in choices made when no one else is watching, in a consistency that outlasts the storms and withstands the drought. For the chosen one, every act of patience, every hour spent wrestling with doubt but holding to hope, becomes like a stone set in a foundation. Most will never know how many prayers you prayed when the world was asleep. They won't see the moments you forgave in secret, the times you chose honesty when compromise would have been easier, or the faith you carried when others chose cynicism. And yet, the universe, God, the source, whatever name you give the wellspring of life, has never missed a single act of faithfulness. Every step you took in silence, every tear you sowed in private, has been recorded in a ledger more enduring than any human applause. When the tide finally turns and recognition arrives on a whisper, you realize it was never about the spotlight. It was always about the shift you created in the unseen realm, a shift that brings blessing to others, often without their ever knowing the root of their harvest. Picture the farmer who plants a seed and walks away, trusting the process that happens out of sight. For weeks, there's nothing to show for the labor but empty soil. Yet, under the surface, the seed is breaking open, roots are pushing down, new life is fighting its way toward the light. The world above waits for evidence, but the real work is happening in silence and darkness. In the same way, there are forces at work through your life that don't show up in headlines or trending news, but that move the hearts of men and women, that protect destinies and break chains in future generations. The humility of your walk becomes the womb of new beginnings. And when the flower finally appears, it seems sudden to those who only watch the surface. But you and heaven know the truth. It was a slow, faithful unfolding, a labor of hope in the unseen places. Some of the greatest changes you'll ever make happen in the lives of people you'll never meet. A word spoken with compassion, a prayer sent up for a stranger, a decision to let go of bitterness rather than return evil for evil. These become the invisible scaffolding upon which the world is rebuilt. You may never see the houses that rise from your stonework, but the city stands stronger because you passed through. Legends, miracles, prophecies. Subscribe to see what history forgot. In the kingdom of God, the smallest act of obedience can set off an avalanche of miracles. What the world calls coincidence, faith calls providence. What others see as luck, you know, is the result of rivers rerouted by the wisdom of the Spirit, by the courage to say yes in secret when every outward sign says quit. You don't have to chase recognition. It will find you in due season. The life of the chosen one is a testimony to the fact that the universe is watching for those who move with integrity even when no one else sees. There are blessings with your name on them, set aside for the day when the roots you watered in faith finally break through and become an orchard of provision, not just for you, but for all who wander near. Let this be encouragement to every soul who wonders if their silent sacrifices matter. The answer is yes, yes 1,000 times over. The story of your life is not written only in the visible victories, but in the unseen currents you've set in motion. Like the hidden spring beneath the city, your faithfulness sustains more than you'll ever know. So don't despise the seasons when your work seems to disappear into the void. Don't grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time, you will reap a harvest if you don't give up. Every river starts as a trickle. Every flood of blessing begins with drops of obedience, pooled in quiet places. When gratitude shows up in your story, whether from a stranger, a friend, or even a sudden surge of inner peace, receive it as a sign that heaven has been paying attention all along. The quiet victories, the silent prayers, the battles fought in secret, they matter more than you can imagine. They are the currency of legacy, the true gold of spiritual inheritance. One day, you'll see that the gentle current of your hidden efforts was the very force that changed the direction of the river. When people come to rest in the shade of trees you planted, or find shelter in houses built on the stones you set, their gratitude will rise like morning mist, a silent testimony to a life well lived in faithfulness. The world may never hand you a trophy for the burdens you carried or the wisdom you spoke in hushed tones. But heaven's accounting never fails. Every small, unnoticed act is multiplied in the hands of God. Just as a stone tossed into a lake creates ripples that reach the farthest shore, your quiet contributions echo through time and eternity, moving in ways no eye can track, blessing generations you may never see. You are a hidden spring. You are a seed in the soil. You are the steady hand that holds the net while others haul in the catch. And though the applause may be delayed or the thanks may come softly, know this. You are seen, you are valued, and you are the reason the garden flourishes, the river flows, the city stands strong. So rise each day knowing your quiet faith is not lost in the noise. It is the very melody that turns chaos into harmony. It is the unseen foundation that makes every harvest possible. In the end, every secret sacrifice is revealed in a chorus of gratitude that heaven itself will not allow to be silenced. Picture a seed pressed deep beneath layers of rock, hidden far from sunlight, where no gardener checks and no birds ever sing. No one sees its quiet struggle as it sends out the tiniest root, pressing against granite, twisting through the smallest cracks, borrowing patience from the dark. Seasons change above, storms rage and pass, and all the while, that seed works in secret, slow but steady, carving its own place. Then, one morning, a green shoot breaks the surface, not overnight, but after years of persistence. That's the story of your strength. Life doesn't always announce our growth with banners and trumpets. Most days, the world rushes on, missing the silent battles and private prayers that build real power in a soul. Many of the strongest people you'll ever meet never sought the spotlight. They learned to lean on a deeper promise, trusting that what was planted in faith beneath the ground would one day bring fruit above it. The world may pass you by, but heaven never does. There are times you walk through entire seasons where it feels as if no one notices your faithfulness, where each effort, each sacrifice, each lesson learned in hardship seems invisible to those around you. Maybe you worked late when others went home, maybe you forgave when it cost you everything, maybe you carried hope when the crowd said give up. To the outside eye, you were overlooked, but beneath the surface, a foundation was forming, stone by stone, prayer by prayer, layer by layer, so deep that no outside storm could shake it. The truth is, we live in a world that honors the fast and loud, but destiny is most often built slow and quiet. The strongest buildings stand on foundations that took decades to settle. And in your story, every trial, every heartbreak, every lonely hour was not wasted. It was poured into the footings of a future so strong, no disappointment can uproot it. Think about all those moments someone tried to sabotage your spirit, to make you doubt your worth, to turn your gifts against you. The enemy, call it envy, call it fear, call it plain old human weakness, may have tried to plant weeds in your garden, but grace turned every attack into fertilizer for your growth. It's a secret of the chosen. What the adversary means for harm, God repurposes for strength. Every no you received became a doorway to patience. Every door slammed in your face forced you to build a better entryway within yourself. The lessons that seemed bitter at the time became the medicine that healed you. Over and over, the world tried to shake you from the outside, but your roots just went deeper, your resolve grew stronger, and your faith began to shine through the cracks. What's more, the very acts meant to bring you down, those betrayals, dismissals, those words meant to break you, became the soil that gave your spirit something to push against. No diamond forms without pressure, no pearl without the irritation in the shell, no great tree without the stubbornness to break through stone. The pain was not pointless, it was preparation. Life brings storms. That's a promise nobody escapes. But not everyone weathers them the same way. Some run for shelter, some complain about the rain, but a chosen soul learns to stand steady. They remember that every storm, no matter how fierce, is temporary. Roots grown in silence are never shaken by thunder. The tree that stands after the flood is the one that spent its early years growing deep, not just tall. Every time you felt forgotten, every season of hardship, God was investing in you, growing a hidden strength that would one day hold others up, too. What others saw as your setback was the scaffolding for a comeback. And when the sun breaks through again, it shines on a survivor who didn't just endure but was refined by adversity. There comes a day, often when you least expect it, when what was growing in darkness is suddenly revealed in the light. Like the shoot breaking through the soil, your resilience, your character, and your quiet victories become impossible to ignore. Structures built by the manipulations of others, by gossip or jealousy or the hunger for control, collapse in the glare of what you carry inside. The same people who thought they could dismiss you, who counted you out, are now confronted with the undeniable evidence that real strength is an inside job. Their words were smoke, their plots were sandcastles at high tide. What they built in secrecy is swept away by the tide of revelation, while you stand on a foundation that can't be shaken. If you ever doubted that your pain had a purpose, let this be your confirmation. The pressure you endured, the isolation you carried, the tears you sowed, these weren't signs of failure, but the very ingredients that produced your breakthrough. You are not just a survivor of circumstances. You are a testament to what grace can do with a life that refuses to quit. Just as gold is refined in fire, so your character has been shaped in the furnace of adversity. And while others built with shortcuts and secrets, you chose the slow, faithful way, the way of truth, integrity, and trust in a power higher than any enemy. That is why, when the shaking comes, your house stands firm. Sometimes people look for miracles in thunder and lightning, but the greatest works of God are often hidden in the ordinary. The kindness you offered when no one was watching, the discipline to keep going when you wanted to give up, the decision to forgive and move forward, these are the notes in the song that only heaven hears at first. But eventually, the music gets louder, and the world has no choice but to listen. It is easy to feel small when the world measures greatness by followers and applause. But the chosen aren't chosen for show, they're chosen to be living examples that greatness is built, not borrowed. Every lesson learned in hardship is a seed. Every tear is water. And in the fullness of time, the garden of your soul becomes a sanctuary for others who need hope. When the tide finally turns, when the time of unveiling arrives, what once seemed impossible to face becomes a memory of what you have overcome. The very storms meant to uproot you become the winds that carry your story to new lands. The shadows flee before the radiance that comes from a heart tested and true. You find yourself able to confront what once terrified you, to stand up in rooms where you once shrank back, to claim territory you once thought was lost. The strength you carry is not borrowed, it is forged. And as the light grows brighter, those who tried to shake your foundations see that they were only ever kicking against the unmovable. In every life, there are moments that reveal who we truly are, not when all is easy, but when the storm is at its fiercest. Your steadfastness was not an accident. It was the result of every lesson, every night you refused to give in, every hope you dared to hold. The world may have moved on, but you stayed planted, and now you are reaping a harvest no one else saw coming. Let the story of your perseverance be a lantern for others walking their own difficult roads. Let your breakthrough be their encouragement that nothing suffered in faith is ever wasted. When others say, "It can't be done," your life quietly answers, "Just watch." Because the strongest foundations are the ones nobody notices until everything else falls. So keep pressing, keep believing, keep showing up even when you feel invisible. The roots you've grown in secret are holding you steady for a future filled with possibilities. The structures built against you will fall, and what you have built from within will stand, because it was shaped by the hand of the Master, watered with patience, and strengthened by every challenge. One day, you'll see that every overlooked moment, every hidden struggle, every silent victory became the very bedrock of your destiny. You'll realize that it was never the noise that made you strong. It was the steady, unshakable foundation you built when no one else was watching. Every story hides a secret. Subscribe and become a seeker with us. And when your light shines, when it bursts forth in a tide of revelation, sweeping away everything that once threatened to undo you, let it be a testimony. Storms may come, but nothing can shake what God has established in the hidden places. Imagine a river moving beneath a thick layer of winter ice. On the surface, everything looks still, untouched, almost frozen in time. But underneath, the current is always searching, always flowing, carving paths in places no eye can see. Over the years, people build roads and bridges overhead, convinced they know the lay of the land. They map what is visible, trusting what is solid underfoot. Yet all the while, deep below, that river is shifting earth and stone, connecting what's seen with what's secret, preparing for a day when the thaw will come and the hidden will overflow into the light. In much the same way, life is full of unseen passageways, corridors that connect the obvious moments of our days with the mysteries that move just beneath. These passages are not marked by street signs or recognized on any public map, yet they carry the weight of history. Generations have trusted these silent ways to keep what mattered most away from curious eyes. Maybe it was an old family story, a hard-won wisdom, a quiet resilience that was never spoken aloud, but carried like a key in the heart. Sometimes it's a prayer whispered for decades, a secret dream, or a courage learned in midnight hours. As the years roll by, communities and families build elaborate networks around these hidden spaces, agreements, understandings, traditions that pass from hand to hand. They believe these connections are safe from harm, that discipline and coordination will keep their boundaries secure. People convince themselves that if they just hold on tightly enough, no one will ever know what runs beneath their lives. They build routines and reputations, ceremonies and codes, all designed to keep the visible world separate from the world of secrets. But here's what the river teaches us, and what the truly wise have always known: what is hidden can only stay hidden so long. You can build walls and fortresses, you can lock doors and guard passageways, but every secret bears its own weight. The longer it's held, the more it presses, not just on the one who keeps it but on the very foundation of the house they build. Even the strongest ice will eventually crack when the sun grows warm enough, and what flows beneath will find its way out. Now, in every generation, there are those who develop a sense for these deeper currents. They walk into a room and sense what's not being said. They listen to the laughter and hear the tremor of anxiety underneath. They see the public celebrations but feel the tension running through the roots. These are the chosen, the ones who aren't fooled by appearances, the ones who can look past a friendly handshake and see the trembling beneath. It's not that they're suspicious or cynical, it's that they've been trained by life to read the signs, to feel the river under the ice. They've learned, sometimes through heartache, sometimes through prayer, that the world is more than what is on display. And because they know the cost of pretending, they become keepers of a different kind of wisdom, the kind that knows every secret yearns for the light. Often, these chosen ones don't seek out secrets. They aren't detectives or busybodies. Instead, truth has a way of seeking them out. It's as if the river, tired of being bottled up, begins to murmur at their feet. Maybe they wake up with a heavy heart and don't know why. Maybe a stranger tells them a story that doesn't add up, and a question lodges in their spirit. Maybe they see a child's tears and know there's a story beneath the story. The chosen learn to trust these whispers, to move gently, not to accuse, but to listen for the real reason the ground is trembling. Communities and organizations, even families, can spend generations building systems to keep the inconvenient or the uncomfortable out of sight. They polish their traditions and shine their trophies, all the while hoping no one will ever look too close at what lies beneath the floorboards. But there comes a time, a spiritual thaw, if you will, when all the efforts to cover up, to contain, to control, are overtaken by something bigger than human design. Maybe it starts as a rumor, maybe as a crisis, maybe as a moment of honesty nobody expected. Suddenly, the network of secrecy is under strain. Walls built on discipline alone begin to show cracks. Boundaries that seemed so unbreakable are pushed by questions that won't be silenced. At first, the keepers of the old ways try to patch things up, to double down on denial or discipline. But the weight keeps building, and the ice above the river begins to groan. The truth is, the world has always moved toward revelation. Secrets may linger for a while, but the Spirit is forever drawing things into the open. Just as spring inevitably comes to the coldest winter, the day of unveiling arrives. Those who trusted only in structures and silence find themselves scrambling, unable to shore up what's collapsing under its own pressure. The very thing they believed would keep them safe becomes the reason they are exposed. For the chosen, this isn't a moment of triumph or pride, but of sacred responsibility. They didn't ask for the secrets to come pouring out. But when the river rises and the ice breaks, someone must be ready to tell the truth in love. Someone must help others cross safely to the other side. Someone must remember that while the collapse of secrecy can feel like disaster, it's also a chance for healing, a chance to plant something new in soil that's finally seen the sun. As the old passageways give way, it's time for something better to be built. Not another web of concealment, but open roads of trust. Not another network of shadows, but new bridges built on transparency and compassion. The wisdom gained from all those years of hidden currents isn't wasted. It becomes the foundation for a more honest future. When you've lived long enough to see secrets come and go, you understand that what truly lasts isn't what's hidden, but what's healed. The chosen carry scars, yes, but also seeds of new beginnings, of bridges where there were once walls, of rivers that run clear beneath an open sky. Where once there were closed doors, now there are windows. Where once there were guarded hearts, now there is the hope of forgiveness and freedom. So, if you find yourself sensing a current beneath the surface, if you feel the tension of secrets waiting to break through, don't be afraid. The sun is rising, and what comes into the light loses its power to haunt. You were made for such a season. You are not alone. Others have walked this path before, and the one who orders the thaw of every winter knows how to guide you through, step by careful step. Let your life be a living witness that what is built on truth cannot be shaken, that what is surrendered to grace can always be redeemed. The passageways that once served secrets can be transformed into highways for healing, avenues for new community, and testimonies of God's faithfulness that shine far beyond the reach of shadows. And as the river finally breaks free, may you stand at its banks, rooted, unshaken, ready to welcome the next sunrise. For you know, in your spirit, that every unveiling is a chance for the chosen to build something better, and every current once hidden is a promise that nothing can hold back the light for long. Imagine waking up in the early hours before dawn, when the world outside your window is wrapped in a heavy, stubborn fog. The old trees and fences that you know so well vanish from sight, swallowed by a haze that makes every step uncertain. But then, almost unnoticed at first, a line of gold appears on the horizon. The sun begins to rise, slow but sure, and the thickest fog cannot stand against its warmth. Bit by bit, the land is revealed, and what was hidden becomes visible once more. The sunlight does not argue with the darkness. It simply arrives, and by its presence alone, every shadow loses its hold. Our journeys through life are often like those mornings, navigating days where nothing is quite clear, when answers seem hidden and truth feels far away. The world offers countless opinions, statistics, and so-called facts, each one clamoring for our trust. Yet, in the most defining moments, it's not the loudest argument that guides us, it's the quiet certainty inside. That's the divine whisper, the knowing that sits deeper than logic, gently pointing the way even when the path is shrouded in confusion. For many, intuition is a forgotten language, neglected and dismissed. People learn to trust only what can be measured, counted, or proved, building their lives around what everyone else says is true. But the chosen ones know, sometimes you have to step out before you see the ground. Sometimes what saves you isn't a map drawn by another, but a conviction that rises up from your soul, stronger than fear and steadier than the shifting winds. This sacred compass isn't forged overnight. It's built quietly, in seasons of solitude and reflection. When the world is loud and the pressure is on, those quiet hours spent listening to your own heart, meditating, praying, walking beneath the open sky, are not wasted. They become your training ground. While others look for shortcuts and guarantees, you learn to move with the rhythms of something eternal, to recognize the subtle nudge that says, go here, or wait a little longer. The world will question you. Why take that road? They'll ask. Why do you believe in dreams and gut feelings when everyone else is following the numbers? You might feel alone, but you are never truly alone. The same spirit that led prophets through deserts, that whispered hope to mothers in midnight prayer, that steadied the hands of those building something from nothing, moves in you too. When all the familiar guideposts disappear, that's when you find out what you're really made of and whose voice you are really following. Every person called to something higher knows what it's like to face doubt and misunderstanding. The path of intuition isn't always lined with cheering crowds or supportive friends. Sometimes, your greatest test is pressing forward when others call you foolish, stubborn, or naive. It hurts, especially when the resistance comes from those you love or respect. But even in those moments, your spirit is being refined, made strong, made clear, made steady. In the quiet, your spirit is tuned like an old piano, each note adjusted until it rings true. You learn to trust the quiet nudge more than the shouting voices. You begin to see patterns where others see only chaos. When the world panics, you pause and listen. When the world rushes, you wait and watch. And when the answer comes, you move, not with fear, but with a gentle boldness that surprises even you. Where standard tactics falter and rehearsed routines hit dead ends, the flaws in a system become apparent. Misfortunes that appear random, testimonies that dissolve under pressure, and tragedies masked as accidents are often the residue of a system designed to keep the truth at bay. Only when the pattern is seen through fresh eyes can the real shape of what's hidden emerge. When corruption finds its way into the very bones of an institution, it does not announce itself with banners. Rather, it creeps in quietly, appearing as bureaucratic error, masquerading as official business, blurring lines between helper and predator. Every attempt to alert those in charge becomes another turn in a maze where the exit is always just out of reach, and the path is littered with unspoken agreements. It's not always the obvious signs that herald change, but the subtle signals: unease at the mention of a name, a heavy silence following the news, recurring dreams that seem to whisper warnings. These are not the product of an overactive mind but the gentle touch of wisdom seeking a receptive spirit. Buried in forgotten places, the wisdom of those who came before waits patiently for one willing to listen and unlock its secrets. Cycles repeat, each generation discovering the echoes of struggles fought long ago. Messages are woven into the fabric of time, not simply as warnings, but as guides for navigation, as blueprints for dismantling obstacles, and as reminders that arrogance always carries the seed of its own undoing. Ingenious plans sometimes become traps for their creators. The very protections meant to guarantee escape can morph into confinements. Systems designed with precision are rendered useless when their structure is exposed, and what began as a fortress becomes an inescapable maze. There are those who feed off the vulnerabilities of others, constructing elaborate schemes to drain hope and energy. Their machinery is built not of gears and metal but of manipulation and fear, twisting unity into division and hiding true motives behind a curtain of distraction. Hardship can awaken reserves of strength not previously imagined. Attempts to silence a voice can sharpen its clarity until it rings out unmuted. The challenges meant to defeat can, instead, transform an ordinary path into an extraordinary journey, repurposing every attempted setback as fuel for greater resilience. Every current against progress often signals an engineered resistance, one designed to frustrate and deter. When the realization dawns that what feels like endless struggle is a manufactured obstacle, the perspective shifts and the fight becomes purposeful, guided by a vision that cannot be corrupted by surface appearances. The force that truly shifts history isn't measured in muscle or machines, but in the ability to see through illusion and recognize what is real. Advice earned through adversity prepares an investigator to spot the faintest glimmer of truth in a landscape cluttered with shadows, cutting through confusion to reveal a new reality. As the old guard falls away, the world witnesses the collapse of structures built on hidden agendas. Where secrets once reigned, the machinery that powered exploitation comes to a grinding halt, replaced by a new clarity about the interconnectedness of all systems. Instructions for a brighter age have always existed, waiting to be reawakened. Their maps show how cooperation flourishes where suspicion once ruled, how abundance follows when scarcity is left behind, and how lasting growth is fostered when hearts align in the pursuit of something greater than individual gain. A single voice raised for what is right can ripple outward in ways never imagined. Acts of courage, though sometimes met with resistance, leave a mark in the collective field, making the road smoother for those who come after. Gratitude then becomes a currency exchanged between souls whose journeys have been forever changed by another's example. With new awareness comes an understanding that technology can be harnessed for both creation and destruction. Those who have developed the maturity to witness uncomfortable truths can lead others through the confusion, anchoring compassion even as old illusions dissolve. Can you spot the lesson in every legend? Subscribe and join the search. Personal transformation is never a solitary achievement. It's the bridge that links worlds, connecting what was to what can be. The fading of old stories clears space for a community where mutual trust and common goals are the foundation, guided by a spirit that values the journey as much as the outcome. Deep appreciation often grows from recognition that true change is never the work of one alone. When gratitude is expressed, it carries with it the knowledge that the tides of awakening have already turned and will continue to rise, propelled by all those who stand, speak, and act in alignment with a greater good.